Your brain is constantly making three decisions. What am I going to focus on? What does it actually mean to focus on that? And what am I going to do about it?
Agent Power Huddle is a daily jumpstart, giving you all the tools you need to create an amazing real estate career. Led by top experts in the field, you'll learn how to sell more houses in less time while creating the life you want. Welcome to the Agent Power Huddle.
It's Monday, and Susan is going to lead us through something incredible today. Susan, how you feeling?
Hey, Jesse. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I feel like it's been forever.
It has. We missed you last couple of times. And I know you were out in Havasu, weren't you?
I was in Havasu. I was in Dallas. I'm now back in San Diego, floating in, for those people watching on Zoom or the podcast, floating in cyberspace on my virtual background. You have no idea where I actually am.
That is cool. I was with Mike Brown at lunch in San Diego. I tried calling him. He was like, "Oh, he's coming back from Havasu." I'm like, "Oh, very cool." Well, hey, that's awesome. Hey, everybody, happy Mindset Monday. It's always great to see you all on Monday and to launch our week ahead. Hope everybody's coming off a fantastic weekend of high energy, productivity, and everything else, and getting ready to start another one, right?
Yeah, and I love your topic for today, Susan.
Yeah,
so we didn't announce it. We just call this thing Mindset Monday because it's always kind of like an on the fly. But you want? I actually know what the topic is. But do you want to tell people what we're talking about today?
Sure. Well, you know why I do that, Jess? Because I'm always, when I come up with my topics, it's usually something I'm kind of going through, and I kind of really think about, what's going on in my own world and in my team or something like that. So this is about decisions. I just had a lot of things going on this week and making decisions and different things in my business and life and all that. So this is about the power of decision making. And, we have that going on in our life all the time, really. So it's not just this week.
Yeah. Before we dive in, I want to say, look, if it's Monday and you're not running around like multitasking 17 things at once, turn your camera on, be part of this. If you're on Facebook and you want to jump on with us live, come to agentpower.com because we're talking about the power of decision making. And I literally only see two of you on camera. So I'm going to ask you guys on camera before I let Susan roll with this thing. I want to know for Nate Jones, for Wesley and Candace, have you ever had to make a decision on anything? Raise your hand. Perfect. Okay, if you have hands, you're raising them. Those of you not on camera, play along with me at home. Have you ever had to make a decision about anything? Raise your hand. Okay, even though I can't see you, I know you're doing it. Okay, this relates to all of you. All right, now you can rock, Susan.
Thanks. This relates to everybody. And the thing is sometimes I think we downplay a little bit, which is why I'm bringing this to the forefront. And it's nice to see everybody logging on because I know a lot of us listening to this on podcast now and on the Facebook Live and everything. I'm seeing a lot of people tuning in and logging on. So that's great. But, Jess and everybody, every decision that we have, carries consequences. So decisions really have the power. They really do to create great rewards in our life. However, decisions have, the power to give us some negative consequences and denigrate the quality of our life if we make some bad decisions, obviously. So the level of the consequences are actually going to vary. Every decision you make is really going to obviously affect the direction in the life. Wes is laughing and chuckling in the background there, but it's so very true. Think of all the experiences that you've had in your life and where your life is today. Would your life be radically different if you had made some different decisions? Even small decisions can have a profound impact when they measured over the course of several years or decades. Wesley, had you not shown up to your friends group that night, when they invited you out, had you not met your future wife, little things like that. But the decisions, that you have, that's just one. He was chuckling in the background, so I had to throw that out there. But, maturity is really anticipating the consequences of your decisions in advance to making them. So some of us will make a very quick decision without really thinking them through and thinking about the consequences and how they're going to actually impact our lives or the results we're actually trying to achieve, be it in our business or be it even in our personal lives. So this session is actually based, and you can probably guess it. Well, I don't know. I follow a lot of different people, of course, but this is one of my favorites, of course. Tony Robbins, The Time of Your Life. This is his Time of Your Life coaching, and it teaches you a strategic process, on decision making that's going to empower you. Okay, and it's only an excerpt from it because it's actually a longer session, but your brain is actually constantly making 3 decisions. You may be consciously aware of this, but maybe not. So here we go. Your brain is constantly making 3 decisions. What am I going to focus on? What does it actually mean to focus on that? And what am I going to do about it? It's always playing in the back of your mind. What am I going to focus on? What does it mean? And what am I going to do? If you're familiar with Tony Robbins at all, he's got a program called an RPM model. And that is what I use it all the time. It will assist you in how to answer these 3 questions consciously, move you in that right direction. So if you don't know what the RPM model is, it's result, purpose, and massive action plan. So, what am I going to focus on? What result do you want? Purpose, why do you want it? And massive action plan, what action are you going to take that's going to get you that result, and by when? Put a timeline on it. Don't just leave it out there and you don't know when you're going to get that result to show up. So your brain is constantly asking yourself these kind of questions. So with the power of effective decision making, I'm going to break it down into 3 phases in an effort to make it a little more succinct today to deliver it to you here in our Agent Power Huddle. Phase 1 is...
Are you saying, Susan, you're going to take like 3 days worth of material and break it down to 24 minutes?
No.
You're great. That's what I'm saying. No, you're going to take a bunch of material and break it down to 24 minutes. I love it.
Well, kind of. I'm breaking into 3 phases. This is a longer section. It'll. I don't want to try to get too out of it, but I took a succinct part of this whole training into what I felt could be delivered, and you could have a takeaway for today. Let's put it that way.
I love it. I already love where you're going. I just want to ask a question while you're going. I'm not going to stop your flow, but as soon as you said the focus part, right, and what you focus on, how many of you already started thinking about what am I focusing on? What have I been focusing on lately? It's the first place my brain went. Right? Wes is raising his hand, right? Nate's nodding his head. Just if that's all you took out of this morning, if you're on here for 7 minutes, you're like, got it, I'm good, right? If that's all you take, that's awesome. All right, keep going, Susan.
Well, so I'm glad you even brought that up because it segues right into, phase 1. I broke it into phases. It's not in the book phases. I'm breaking it this way just so I can kind of chunk it to you, and be able to take it away. If you're just listening and you're not either watching me or anything like that, sometimes it's hard to just follow in audio. So if decisions have so much power in our lives, then why do we put them off? Right? Why would we put them off? If the decision is, has so much power, we know it has a power. We know we have to make a decision. But number one reason, obviously, is fear. Many people are afraid of failing. They're afraid of making the wrong decision. But putting off what you inevitably know you need to do is one of the reasons, people don't make the decision. They're afraid they're going to make the wrong decision. The hardest part, though, of making the decision is just making it. Once you make it, it's kind of like, then your mind is now trying to find out the results and how to find the solution to get, to take action. So you've got to actually make that decision. You've got to let go of that fear because, you got to make that decision and get off the fence. All right. Number 2 is uncertainty about what the decision is going to mean. Most of us have this illusion that, decisions are based on absolute certainty. Well, quite frankly, that's further from the truth. The decisions are based on the greatest probability. Okay, the greatest probability. So you can't really wait to be 100% certain before you make a decision on something because you probably will miss the boat or miss the opportunity. Opportunities will come to you. And if you just sit there and keep waiting till you are 150% absolutely certain, that opportunity could pass you by. All right, you've got to make decisions based on, the most highest probability. Right. So that's one of the reasons people stay, they kind of don't make the decision. Third is people have a weak decision-making muscles. The way to get good at making decisions is to make more of them. All right. And when you make wrong decisions, you're just going to learn quicker. what decisions not to make. You're going to make mistakes along the way. That happens, but you'll be able to know, well, not to do that next time. And then you can mastermind with others and share with others what your results were. And that's how we all learn, right? Success is the result of good judgment. Good judgment is the result of experience, and experience is the result of what? Bad judgment. So I love that. It's actually a quote from the book. And I did love that quote because it's so darn true. But that's, it's once again, it goes back to, hello, little bee. Here's my little granddaughter, everybody. So, why people might be afraid to actually make that decision and commit. And the last reason here before we move to that next phase is people feel overwhelmed. We all experience it. And that's why I brought it out in the beginning about the focus. A constant fire hose of information. So we're constantly getting emails, voicemails, DMs, social media, text messages. We've got things going on in our business, our personal lives. We're having to make decisions multiple times a day on many different things. Many different things. That's going to cause us, to focus on our outcomes. But we need to do is we really need to focus and put them in priority, because if you get overwhelmed, what might happen to you? If you get overwhelmed, you may not make the decision at all, because it could then paralyze you from not making a decision. All right. So what I love, Krista says, when you're overwhelmed, just, try to, the way you look at things, the things you look at change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And in Krista's program, she says, look at overwhelm as growth, and I like that because, most, again, when you get overwhelmed, it's very easy to get paralyzed. And when you get so many decisions coming at you, I mean, sometimes my husband will say, hey, where do you want to go to dinner? I'm like, gosh, if I have to make one more decision, that's a little easy decision. But when you've had decisions all day long, I'm like, just pick a place,
So two things I'll jump in on there.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be overwhelmed. So something else, Krista, I learned from her was the confused mind does nothing. So
yes,
overwhelm is a pretty high level of confusion, right? Overwhelm is like, right. It literally could just be like, just slight confusion could be enough that like, if you guys are sending text messages to people and they don't respond and you wonder why, it's because you put 3 different options in a text. They're like, I don't know, I'll come back to later. And in your own life, you do the same thing. You're like, I could do this or I could do that. Whatever. I'll come back to it. Right.
So that's why I put this into phases, because exactly. So people feel overwhelmed. So we need a system here, actually. And so when we talk about systems, sometimes people hear the word system and they're like, oh my God, not another system. You may even do this already. Some of these things are very basic and very easy. And they almost become habits once you start getting in the practice of doing them regularly. All right. So when you start to feel, call it overwhelm, call it, too many choices, whatever you've got going on, a system to making decisions is focusing on the outcomes that are going to get you the results that you want. So in other words, again, like the dinner thing, that's not one of my highest priorities. I'm happy he can pick a place where he wants to go. That's not my, I'll be happy just being with him. You know what I mean? The place is, he can choose it. It's fine with me. That's not my biggest priority of what my result that I have to focus on, the decision that I need to make right now. I need to prioritize what the outcome is. Another major decision that I've got to give my energy to. So phase 2 is the 4 rules of decision making. And this is what I really like. So you see how many you can, something minimal, as where you want to go have dinner, all the way up to something, maybe a major decision you've got to make in your life or your business or something like that. Now you've got to really think about your really, really important major decisions. All right, here we go. There's 4 rules for this. All important and difficult decisions must be made on paper. And I like this because you don't want to do it in your head. Most of us will just think about things over and over head. But what Tony says in the time of your life is when you just think about things in your head, even though you keep thinking, well, maybe if I just continue to digest it and drill it down, if it's in your head and you're not inking it on paper, then it loops. You create something called a looping. Have you ever heard of that before? And so when you're creating the looping, you're not coming up with a solution. All right. So it creates a looping. So it's really hard to make a decision when you're just looping in your head. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? When you're trying to make a decision, you want to ink it down in paper. What is that decision you're trying to do? Ink it. Then out of that decision, part 2 of that is be clear of what is the outcome you want from that decision. Okay. See how now you're getting clarity on that. This is now going to help you in the decision-making process of a major decision. Now, obviously, we're not going to do this on where to go to dinner, but you now see the difference? Major decision. Get real clear. What's the outcome? Why do you want that outcome? What's it going to do for your business, for your life? Why is that important to you? Anchor the purpose of the why in there. All right. Number 3 on that. Decisions are made based on, what did I tell you earlier, the best probability. So remember, there's no absolute certainty. So when you're making a decision on how to move forward, maybe it's in your business, you're deciding on choosing a certain CRM or a certain, you're about to pay for something to add to your business and you're researching it. You want to do your research and then you will then look at the apps, be able to do your comparisons. I'm hoping maybe that's a good example for, to use here. But what is, your best probability for you to reach your outcome for that specific decision you need to make? Is that a good example, would you say, for those of you that are in the real estate business? All right. The 4th step to that on this rule is to then get clarification. So you might do this. And let's say you've got 2 or 3. Maybe you're looking at 2 or 3 different systems. I'm just going to use the CRM system, for example, because it's one for a lot of real estate agents can relate to. And you're looking at a few different systems, and you might do a comparison to them. All right. Or you've got a couple different, again, major decisions that you're looking at. You want to put them in order of importance, and so that you're actually clarifying which one that you really want to focus on as your number 1. Jess, did I explain that well enough? Do you have any questions on that?
I don't have any questions, but I was just thinking that decision making is a muscle. And as you go through this process, when you said don't do this for when you are picking a restaurant for dinner, I'm kind of thinking in my mind, why not? If you're not that good at decision making, seriously, I'm not trying to be, I'm kind of a little funny, but everybody's got a different level of decision making that's naturally hard coded into their personality. Some of us are decisive. Some of us are terrible at it. And if you're some of the people that are terrible at it, start with something that's really low threat, low risk, right? Picking dinner, you're not going to screw it up. So might as well go practice this on things that don't matter as much.
I love that. Actually, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to take that. I will backtrack.
Well, why not, right?
Yeah, everybody's at a different, we're all different behavioral styles. And, some of us are quicker decision makers in some areas and others. The point being is we get so many decisions in a day that come at us at different directions. And the whole idea is to really start to prioritize so that you are not looking at 50 different decisions, because that will, you will just get overwhelmed and then the paralyzed. And then, like you just said earlier, the confused mind then does nothing. So try to get your top couple levels that are really going to move your business, your life into a direction that you will get the results you want to achieve. That's ultimately where I'm going with all this in terms of the decisions. But some of these harder decisions, we sit on the fence because maybe we're going to have to invest some of our money. If we're going to have to invest some of our money into something, we need to make a major decision and we need to get some, we need to maybe get some background data on it and we need to take action. So the phase 3 on this whole thing is that now when you're focusing on that major decision, there's kind of a 6-step process there. And, you may even already do this. If not, it's not as hard as it seems. These are all not that hard. It's just, like I said, now when you write things down and ink it on paper, and now you look at that. Number 1 is the outcome. Again, you just did it in the last step of the phase 2, taking that, now you got that CRM or whatever you're looking at, your number 1 outcome that you want to get. You've got that. Okay. You're focusing on it. And now you want to write down, what are your options here? Well, I can go with this option. That's the only option I have. I only have one choice. There's only one CRM out there. That's the only one we can choose. There's no other choices in the whole Real estate industry. Sorry, guys. All we have is top producer. No, I don't know. I'm not knocking top producer, but anyway, back in the day, there's only one choice. Well, that's not a choice. When you only have one choice, that's your own, there is no choice. Okay, what if there's only two choices? Do you really have a choice? You're kind of in a dilemma there. You're sort of on the fence. You're really kind of in a dilemma. When you've got three choices, now you actually have a choice. So you want to, at least when you're really looking at a making a major decision, let's go ahead and just say stay in your business for a moment, and you're doing some comparisons, at least compare against at least three different areas here so that you can make some knowledgeable and educated choices that you will actually move you forward in your business, that will align with with your goals and with how you can actually implement it. Okay, that's number two, understanding your options. Number three are the consequences. What are the upsides and downsides of each option? You might pick one, but it's so hard to learn. You might like one of these CRMs, but oh my gosh, it's really hard to implement that one. Well, that might not be the best option for you. You might like another one, but it's easier to implement, but maybe it doesn't have one of the systems that you want in terms of how it's going to perform. So things like that. I don't want to get too detailed in systems, but you get my message, right? Consequences. What are the upsides and the downsides of each option? What do you gain? And what could it cost you? Because when you make a major decision, remember your best probability. So is there a chance it could go the other way? Yeah, it is. So if it does go the other way, what's it going to cost you? Is it going to cost you time, money, both? What's it going to cost you? If it's a win for you, what's it going to gain you? Is it going to increase the volume of your business? Is it going to help your team? Where is it going to take you? Look at the benefits versus the losses, how and how much time are you willing to give it to perform, for an example. All right. The next step is evaluating. Weighing those consequences, you want to evaluate, like I said, the upsides and downsides. That's what you were just doing, evaluating them. And then you can kind of mitigate it. If there are going to be the losses, well, how can you mitigate your losses? Again, a good way of mitigating something like a system is giving it a time frame to perform. You don't want to give a time frame too short, because obviously some of these systems, you've got to give them long enough to be able to perform. All right. That's, again, I'm just using those as an example, but brainstorm different ideas on how to mitigate maybe what the downsides of some of these decisions you're going to make could be, and how you could mitigate the consequences should it go the other way. Well, is it really going to be as bad as you think it's going to be? Or maybe that probability of a better outcome is better than you think it is. Finally, the last step, guys, here in making a decision is really coming to resolve. Once you finally made that decision, and the most probable, consequence is going to be, successful, then resolve to make it work. You're going to play full out. You're going to do everything it takes, and you're going to, make it happen. Again, you're going to play full out. You're going to design your RPM plan, your results, purpose, and your massive action plan. What you're going to do, what actions you're going to take, and put a timeline on it and get to work to do it. Okay, so making those decisions and the major decisions to move you forward in your business or your life, those are the steps in the first phases. It gets into problem solving into this time of your life next on decision making. But I think those first three phases get you started. And once you get in the habit, you're using that over and over again. But I love the writing it on paper and then coming up with the three options and then drilling it down and sometimes mitigating that if it doesn't go quite as you thought it was, maybe it's not as bad as you think. You can maybe come up with ways to, turn it around again. All right. Jesse, you want to jump in on anything there? I've got two quotes I want to end it with.
Yeah, I got a few things actually. I got a few things. So if anyone wants to dive deeper into this, because this might be the first time in over a year of doing Agent Power Huddle we have ever talked about decision making, and there's some really scientific and psychological techniques that if you guys want to go deeper in this, I'm going to drop a link into the chat box.
Okay.
Zach, if you want to put this later onto into the show notes, anywhere link to this one. This is a podcast, and Susan, you will love this one.
Okay.
I sent you this one on decision making. It's the U 2.0 podcast from Hidden Brain. And this specific episode is called Decide Already. It is 30 minutes of scientific evidence on the way our brains make decisions, including a thing called decision fatigue. You ever heard of decision fatigue?
Yes.
So you literally have a certain amount of glycogen stored in your body and in your brain, especially. Your brain is a muscle. And as you make decisions through the day, you said at the top of this episode, sometimes your husband says, where do you want to go for dinner? You're like, I'm done making that's decision fatigue.
That's decision fatigue. That's exactly what I was talking about. And that happens. And think about everything we've got going on in one day, especially us as agents. My gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the end of the day, it's like, man, I just, it's not that your brain's about to go,
yeah. And that's why you'll hear about some well-known leaders. It's typically in the tech world, but I'm sure other corporations do this, that wear the same thing every day, like George Jetson, right? You got Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg were famous for wearing the exact same thing because they said
Gary Keller does the same. Yeah.
It took the decision out of getting dressed. That was one less brain power.
One less decision they have to make.
Them, right?
Yeah.
So I love this topic, Susan. I want to point out something your son said. So Wesley put in the chat box, he said, decisiveness is a leadership trait. And if you look up let's see, how did you pronounce? I got to look up how to pronounce it. JJ did tie buckle. There we go. I'm speaking like a Marine now, right, Wesley? Thank you for your service. He said JJ did tie buckle is the acronym that the Marines use for leadership. It's 14 leadership traits, and decisiveness is one of those traits. So everything you're saying, if someone is watching this and wants to be more of a leader or in a leadership role, this is something they can actually develop. Correct, Susan?
Yeah, absolutely. And, yes, he's my son, but I got to tell you, Wesley was not only, thank you for being a Marine, Wes. He was the honor man of the Marine, of the graduations of the Marine Corps, and about at least 400 Marines that came out when he graduated his boot camp. And then he came one of the Marching 2024, the silent drill platoon, the honorary platoon in Washington, D.C. So it was pretty incredible. And so he was in leadership for many, many years. So I'm very, very proud of my son. As you can see, proud mama moment. But no, he knows a lot about leadership, and he served as a leader and still is. So I'm really proud to have him as my son and on my team. There he is. All right. I've got two quotes. And the reason I have two quotes is I love them both. And I thought, what the heck? I'll just share them both with you guys. All right. So here's the first one. Being paralyzed by indecision is worse than making the wrong decision. You can't grow if you don't trust your inner voice. That's quote one. Quote two, time doesn't wait. Indecision will only let opportunities slip by. Pick a path and walk confidently with your heart behind every step. There you go. Get on with it, everybody, and go have a great, high energy, highly productive week this week.
I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Susan, thank you for being here as always. What a great way to start the week.
As always, love coming on here on Monday mornings. It just launches my week along with everybody's, hopefully. And you guys just go on and have a great week. And Jess, I want to hook up and meet up with you sometime in the next couple of weeks if we can. Okay?
Let's do it. Send me a text.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.